us these wonderful tunes this Saturday morning. All right, let's talk some more about some of the major happenings that occurred this week, and that's reverberating around the senator representing Bauchi Central Abdul Ningi, who's now been suspended, as you must have been following. Of course, this move was made by the Senate because the senator, in the eye of the storm, was said to have made false allegations of budget padding to the tune of 3.7 trillion naira. The Senate also cautioned the lawmaker representing Kano South, Sumaila Kawu, against posting items that it says are capable of causing division and a breakdown of law and order. The Red Chamber, in its resolutions, offered to give Senator Ningi a soft landing, provided he tenders an unreserved apology through a letter addressed to the Senate. National Assembly correspondent Sumaila Kawu tells us more.
Tuesday's plenary session was tension-soaked as the Senate brought up allegations and derogatory comments made by one of its members representing Bauchi Central Senatorial District, Senator Abdul Ningi, against the presidency and the Nigerian Senate for allegedly padding of the 2024 budget to the tune of 3.7 trillion naira. Rising on the Senate's standing orders, Chairman of the Senate's Committee on Appropriations, Senator Lawmaker, claims there is a breach of his constitutional privileges in the interview granted by Senator Ningi. The chairman goes to explain that the 3.7 trillion naira in question is for statutory transfers to government agencies on first-line charge.
There are agencies of the government whose budgets and their details are not contained in these two documents because they are statutory agencies and their money are on first-line charge. Agencies such as one, the judiciary. The judiciary budget details is not contained in this document. Two, the National Assembly. The National Assembly budget details is not contained in this document.
President of the Senate throws the floor open to other lawmakers to contribute to the matter, including the man in the eye of the storm, Abdul Ningi. He was also given his right to be heard.
This is a fake contribution that was forwarded. I do not know the author of this.
Senator Jaribe, in his contributions, also stirred the hornet's nest with another allegation of 500 million naira he claimed was given to senators for execution of projects, but he later made some amendments and clarifications to his allegations.
If he got 500 million extra, he is culpable. He is not supposed to be accusing others that they got 100 billion, 500 billion. There was nothing like that in the budget. If you go through the budget, you will not see anybody getting 100 billion anywhere. That is the position. The Senate did not get anything like that. He got extra 500 million in the budget for projects in his place, not the rest of us. That was my position. And I also said that there was Senator Yayi, the chairman of appropriation, has cleared the air of whatever insinuations there were. So there was no padding of 3.7 billion, and that's my position.
After much talk, the Senate resolved to suspend Senator Abdul Ningi from all activities of the National Assembly for 3 months, including withdrawing all his entitlement, and mandated him to stay away from the National Assembly premises.
Those in support of the suspension for 3 months say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The upper legislative chamber also gave the lawmaker a chance to tender a written apology to the Senate, which will be subject to the consideration of lawmakers for further legislative action. This may not be the end of the matter, and it may also not be the end of the turbulence in the Senate. But the Senate's leadership have succeeded in showing the public that all allegations of padding are untrue, and in the process further heightened the tension that already exists in the Red Chambers. Sumaila Kawu, TVC News, Abuja.
Joining us now to talk about these happenings in the studio is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
And a refreshing change from you. You're looking really good.
Thank you.
Are you sure there's no one there waiting for you
Not at all.
later today.
Just celebrating the goodness of God.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. And thanks again for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
It's my
All right,
pleasure.
so this issue of budget padding allegations as raised by Senator Abdul Ningi started last Saturday or thereabout, and then spanned into all the, well, most parts of this week. What strikes you the most about this?
You see, when you talk about budget padding, it's a slang used to explain either the inflation of projects estimates or introduction of new projects that were not in the originally presented budget for appropriation. But the National Assembly argues that by virtue of the appropriation mandate in the Constitution, they can carry out budget padding. And I think the issue here now is that Senator Ningi alleged about 3.7 trillion or 3 trillion naira had been padded into the budget. And the National Assembly is saying the 3.7 trillion is for government enterprise entitled to first-line charge. And let me explain first-line charge. In the federal allocation system, you have allocations to the 3 tiers of government, the federal, the state, and the local government. But there are government enterprises that get the allocations before the ones to the MDAs, like he mentioned. You talk about TED Fund and INEC and some of them, and that is for them. So it's not as if those figures are not there. But those who are asking questions are saying, explain the details for which these estimates will be expended, that we need clarification over it. And I think this is now a question of accountability, of transparency, as demanded by Senator Ningi. But interestingly, Senator Ningi has been suspended for 3 months. He has also resigned as the Northern Caucus leader in the House and has been replaced by Senator Yaradua from Katsina State. You see, so, and he's been asked to tender apology. But the allegations have not been fully attended to, you see, and in public relations we talk about perception. So there's those who in the school of thought that the Senate is being her own judge in her own case. You know, let me use the expression of a female, because of all the representatives and senators we have represent constituencies there. You see, so because naturally, if we are to go by Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office, then this should be thoroughly investigated. You expect that EFCC should come in because the Senate President and the senators do not enjoy constitutional immunity while in office. They can be investigated. But right now, Senate is saying this is an in-house matter, so let's handle it this way. But there are still questions of clarification. What exactly, I mean, citizens need to know. When you talk about constituency, the other word for constituency is electorate. So you are representing them in the National Assembly. So that is where we are right now. But like I said earlier in the week, this may also fizzle away, like the Betty Edu's matter and many other matters, and we don't get to the root of the matter. But then, he who alleges must also prove. But if you look at the drama, the suspension and everything, then you may begin to wonder, like the Senate President said, that the Senate has been embarrassed, but there are deep issues that must be clarified. So if Senator Ningi was wrong in alleging this unlawful padding, then he should be penalized for it. And if the House has unlawfully padded the budget, we should also know.
Mr. Logun, it seems you are back to the era of 2016. You will agree with me when Abdulwumi Jibrin raised the issue of budget padding in the House of Representatives with the former Speaker, Ado Gara. So at what point can we scale through? Because you said it's like a drama, that it may fizzle away anytime soon. So at what point can we investigate and get to the root of the matter so that it can be clear to Nigerians that there is nothing like a budget padding in the 2024 budget?
It should be difficult.
And some have called that the president should also review this budget again.
There are three arms of government. You have the executive, the legislative arm, and the judiciary.
Right.
So when you talk of investigation of criminal allegations like this, then you bring in the executive, the EFCC, that is answering to the executive, to come and investigate. You know, as a chief superintendent of police, I can talk about investigation, which means you are digging out facts that will help you come to a conclusion. These allegations are there, you know, but some are saying that even the suspension of Ningi was wrong. But as an HR practitioner, you can suspend to allow thorough investigation when you have allegations like that. Suspension is not termination. He has not been removed from the house. And again, when you are saying, when will this end? It didn't start today. Budget padding is a global phenomenon. And like I explained, it's either you are inflating the figures for some reasons or you are introducing new projects. The question that should bother us now is that for whose interest? We listened to Senator Jarigbe saying some senators got 500 million, some got 75, and he was asking. And in response, one of the senators told him, you know, that they are senior senators. They have 10 leaders within the Senate. So if they are getting 500, in fact, that they should not even be, you know, challenged on what they are getting, because according to him, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So is it for the interest of the nation? So I leave that question to the populace. And let me say this. I did a computation. The constituency project allowance is pegged at 200 million for senators. So if you multiply that with 109 senators, it brings you to about 21.5 billion, 0.8 billion naira. In the House of Representatives, you have 150 million. If you compute that with 360 House of Reps member, it gives about 54 billion naira. So the constituencies, are they benefiting from this provision? So these are several issues that should concern Nigerians. And then perhaps when we eventually find our, feet walking on the platform of good governance, then we can say we'll be over with budget padding. It's been on for a while in the nation, and it will just prompt drama. And at the end of the day, And what about the prayer points that the Senate President sent the email addresses of the senators? You recall that. So there are several issues. And let me say this. You must be guided by purpose and mandate. Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good governance of Nigeria. And apart from the lawmaking assignment, you have the policy formulation assignment. You have the oversight functions to ensure that the policies are implemented to the enhancement of national fortune. So when you drop this now in the drama that is going on, then you will ask the question, are all these in the national interest or the senator's interest or whatever interest? And that is the disturbing part of these gates.
But let's get one thing clear. Are you, because as a senator now, once you are confirmed, so to speak, after winning the elections and you are issued your certificate by INEC, you submit somewhat to the rules of the National Assembly. And so let's get your take now, because that appears to be where the Senate is coming from. Yes, there are questions about the way and manner, but people have said he submitted. He himself even more or less foresaw that the hammer would come down on him for what he did and said, so to speak. Are you in support of this suspension? Do you feel there are other ways around that the Senate could have gone about this? Because for the Senate, it appears that the matter has been rested.
I will suggest to the Senate President that he should, liaise with his public relations advisors or approach the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations on stakeholders' engagement. I think there is a need for robust communication in managing the team under his watch. If not, we will not have heard this. But it's also good for democracy that we heard it. Let me say this clearly. Under Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, you have freedom of expression. You see, Ningi himself said he was not afraid of suspension because he knew something was coming. We listened to Jarigbe, who stood up clearly. If those issues had been resolved, they would not have come to the public. And in public relations, when we discuss crisis management, you are either proactive or reactive. It's costlier when you are reactive. And that is the embarrassment the National Assembly is facing now. There will always be conflict of interest. It's natural when human beings come together to run a system. But he's also, the Senate President is perceived as being authoritative. You see, and that also may have to do with what we call inarticulate major premises in jurisprudence. You see, he's been a governor, he's been minister, he's been this, now he's president of the Senate. You see, so there are several issues, because if you listen to Ningi said that this is not representing the interests of the North and the nation. So you can now see the ethnic coloration being brought into the National Assembly. And that defeats the name National Assembly, because all the constituencies are subject to the provisions of the Constitution. And what the Constitution says in Section 14 of the Nigerian Constitution, is that our motto, unity, faith, peace, and progress. So we are expected to unite. In fact, one of them mentioned it, that this money we are talking about, opposition got it. Everybody goes. So it may be that what you got, you are not satisfied with it, which also touches on absence of equity within the system. Because if the provision is 200 million, why is one senator getting 500 million and some getting 75 million? And you can now translate this to the macro effect and ask yourself why Nigeria is where it is. I listened to the senator, even Yaradua, that just took over, talking about facing the challenges in the North, drug abuse, insecurity, hunger, and things. There are bigger problems. I mean, for Ejide Ologun, the energy problem in this country is traumatic for me. So the National Assembly should be seen to be engaging the challenges we have in the nation to ensure that we are repositioned on the course of prosperity. Rather than all this.
I like that line, course of prosperity. And let me quickly take you back the memory lane again. Was the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, right, describing the constituency projects as corruption? Looking at the revelation and what some of these senators were revealing after this allegation of 3.7 trillion naira. Some said they got 200 million, some said 500. So was he right then to say that constituency project was filled with corruption?
I won't hold brief for Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, but he's a veteran in government, so I will also not jettison his comments. But some have said that when you talk about the constituency projects, where are the evidences in the communities that those projects were actually attracted to the communities? I said earlier, constituency means electorate. And sincerely speaking, if you profile the electorate in Nigeria, beyond what some of them get before and during elections to induce votes, I doubt if they benefit. Right now, the inflation in Nigeria is about 37.9%. You know what that means. You know what people, I just mentioned electricity and energy. Many businesses are folding up. So if on the scale of returns on investment, then the constituency project issue may be a scam. So, but let me also say this, particularly as it relates to the suspension of Ningi. It's not the first time. In year 2000, Joseph Waku from Benue State was suspended. In fact, he was challenging the executive. He even said that the government of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, was the worst ever, that a military government will even be better. He was suspended. So we've had suspensions of senator. At a time, Nzeribe was suspended, I think, on the allegation of 22 million naira fraud, and down the line like that. So the big question is, how are they all coming together to benefit this country?
But I'm so sorry, Emmanuel, but we've also had, a number of senators who go on to challenge their suspension, and I wonder if this is something that you see, in the offing, if it's an advice he should take. Also, when we all look at the impact of, even if it's a day suspension, but now 3 months, you don't have access to your office, your constituents are also going to be deprived of adequate representation at this time, and so many other denials.
I think
and so many other
the constituency will not miss anything. I mean,
but that is not what the office was created for. The office was created for constituents to feel the impact of their representatives. So what do you look?
And to add this as an addendum to it is that how can Nigerians hold the senators responsible for all these projects?
Okay, let me start by saying, I think in 2018 or so, O.V. Omo Agege challenged his suspension. So the judiciary is there if Ningi wants to toe that line. But already it's been politically resolved. Like I said, he has even resigned as the Northern Caucus leader. Yaradua has taken over. But the governor of Bauchi is backing him up. And we have not concluded investigation. So we don't even know who is right now, whether it's the Senate or Ningi. But what will happen eventually may be off your mic, that, hey, let's stop this where it is. Look at when Jerry was talking. Eventually, the responses doused exactly. So it's a matter of off your mic. And under the Constitution, Ningi has the right to challenge that suspension. But like I said, some have been suspended in the past also. So, it's, I think all these should just try to throw a big question into the National Assembly. That why are you there? Is it for the people or for yourself or for the parties? And like I mentioned at a time, opposition ends after elections. The moment they go in there, they are brought together by the goodies of the office. But the electorate are waiting. You see, Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the security and the welfare of the citizens, whether you are electorate or you did not vote, shall be the primary purpose of government. And the National Assembly is the key feature of democracy. In this country.
All right, 10 seconds now. So what is left for the electorate to do, as Emmanuel asked?
They have no choice, perhaps, than to wait for another 4 years, like politicians tell them. So the politicians are the ones to repent. And let me say this. If you go to Genesis chapter 41, Pharaoh brought Joseph to the palace, and a single man saved the whole world from famine. And we are talking of 109 senators, 360 House of Reps members, and Nigeria is in poverty. We have this level of insecurity, and they appear not to be bothered by that, and we are discussing budget padding. For whose advantage? So please, I'm saying that if Nigeria is developed, it's for the benefit of all. If we leave Nigeria in the mode it is, that people are beginning to hijack trucks and, you know, share the food items, that bandits are beginning to demand trillions of naira, we should be worried. Absolutely. So please go back to Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution.
Right.
Your responsibility is to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good governance of this nation. And finally, God's instruction is that we should replenish the earth. So please, replenish Nigeria.
It's very interesting.
Jide Ologun there, thank you so much for your contributions on